Welcome to episode 162 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the Demo Derby Road Course edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and my co-host, an iRacing Indy 500 champion, a computer genius, a gentleman, and a scholar. His name is Josh Fine. What's going on, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, Phil, as always. Of course, we had a really interesting weekend of racing across, NASCAR, to an extent in Formula One and even IMSA at Sebring, and then of course got March Madness basketball going on all weekend as well. So yeah, plenty to go on in racing and just sports in general.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're working on merch. I get what you're doing there because Grid Talk has merch, so Grip Strip has to get merch going eventually. Hopefully sooner rather than later, I'll have some time we can go and figure that out. But wait for that for all the listeners that actually do get download and all that. We're going to have some Grip Strip, and we'll have those sayings kind of like the Brad and Kyle channel for bowling. And I'm wearing my Packy shirt for Packy Hanrahan after his first career PBA title last week in Kokomo. And this week they're doing the USBC Masters. So it's going to be a tough week qualifying, trying to get in, make the TV show. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, NASCAR was at CoTA this week, and Tyler Reddick dominated. It was basically him and Will Byron the whole entire race. And outside of that, there was a lot of destruction and a lot of stupidity. In the XFinity race, AJ Allmendinger cleaned out Sheldon Creed and won the XFinity race to repeat there, and then cried wolf when it happened to him. Then in the Truck Series race, it was Zane Smith repeating and Front Row Motorsports continuing their unbeaten streak in the Truck Series at that racetrack. And he went and, as a bonus, caught his truck on fire after doing burnouts, which was pretty cool. So I don't think it's as cool for Chris Lawson and the whole crew because they're having to repair everything, but he started a fire. So I think that was one of the more interesting things about that truck race because otherwise it's pretty awful. So we'll get into all that at CoTA. The roundup is busy. We'll talk about MotoGP and Moto2, which took place at Portimao last week for the season opener, and they'll be in Argentina this week. IndyCar actually is looking at that circuit to possibly go and run a race in the future. The Arizona Nationals, possibly for the last time for the NHRA, saw different winners this past weekend and a first-time winner in Pro Stock. Supercross at Seattle, Eli Tomac gets a historic 50th victory to tie James Bubba Stewart for second all-time or third all-time in wins, I think, or second all-time. You got to check that. Sao Paulo Prix for Formula One or Formula E. They raced there, and they'll have a break going a month or so before they go to Germany for their doubleheader there. We'll preview F2 and F3 at Albert Park. First time they'll ever be there in Australia. And with that, you also have the Supercars coming back for their second race of the season, and they'll run four different races during the weekend. So that'll be interesting. We will give you previews and picks of the IndyCar, XPEL 375 or whatever the hell they're calling it at the dump that is Texas Motor Speedway, and then the Australian Grand Prix preview and picks, which probably I'm not going to be able to see because I'm going to have a busy weekend and it's so late. Cup and Xfinity will be at Richmond, and Trucks will be at Texas as the precursor to the IndyCar race. Josh will let us know all things going on in the world of sim racing, iRacing, and other games since IndyCar's game has been delayed, amongst other things. So kind of getting the IndyCar fan base riled up. When wouldn't it be? And we'll close the deal. So, yeah, we get into the Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas. There was a cast of thousands announcing yesterday. Kurt Busch was the only one that really made sense. He was emotional because he saw his car win. Tyler Reddick led 41 laps, 6 times for 41 laps, and took the victory. Had to fight off I don't know how many different restarts because of the ridiculousness Probably that third stage took 2 hours. I have no idea. I went to watch it somewhere, and the third stage, it was okay. And then I knew that the carnage was going to start, and then that just became an abomination. All these people running over each other. I mean, it's so stupid how people drive anymore. I mean, you can tell some of these guys have no clue and have no business driving a cup car the way they drive into each other. But battle was basically between pole sitter William Byron and outside pole sitter Tyler Reddick. You had 69 of the 75 laps were led by both of those drivers. William Byron now is in the plus category in playoff points after losing a lot of his playoff points from that penalty. Of course, it's pending the appeal here that's coming up later this week, so we'll probably be able to talk about it next week on the show. We'll get into the results of the race before we go and get into more detail. Tyler Reddick gets the victory. First victory for 2311 as a driver. First victory for Toyota. I believe it's their first victory of the year, right? Or am I wrong? I don't remember them winning because I know Chevy. Yeah, because Ford won. Yeah, with Logano. Okay, that's all right. So all right, good. Thank you. Kyle Busch, the driver now of the 8 car, taking over for Tyler Reddick, finished second. Alex Bowman third. Ross Chastain fourth. William Byron finishes fifth. What could have been is what he's wondering, even though another top 5 finish. Dude is having the best start of his Cup Series career. Gumby Cindric sixth. Richard gets his first career top 10 on a road course. That is a hellscape. Christopher Buescher eighth. Keebler Gibbs ninth. And Todd Gilliland gets a top 10 for Front Row Motorsports. Corey LaJoie continuing his great start to the year, just kind of surviving, finishing 11th. He is on the bump spot right now in the points for the playoffs. So, I mean, obviously it's early in the year, but Michael McDowell, who I'd picked in one of my pools that I'm in, came back to finish 12th. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that were involved in stuff. I mean, we can get into those things later, but the initial takeaway is it was a 2-horse race. I think in practice,
yeah, definitely. I mean, Ford is evident stands for first
Reddick
on race day.
Was in a rocket.
Joey Logano,
and it was more
winning in dominating fashion, very convincing fashion. And really, it was
Billy
no
Scott put him on
other
manufacturer
that was going to win that race.
Went sideways,
because obviously, Ford, they figured out something
with all the
super
caution that
speedways,
started
and now
happening in the
Atlanta
third
because
stage,
it's a super speedway now.
They came back. It came back
Logano
to where he
was up there for a bunch.
Get back
Keselowski, who's
and
really
then
been
it was a mano
fight
this
year,
him
finished
and William
second
Byron.
and couldn't stop Logano in the last lap.
Tyler Reddick was able to hold
laps,
up there,
so,
Josh.
He's
Byron
leading the turnaround
to
for
show why he is
RFK,
one of the
looks
early
like, this year they've led laps in every
favorites
race.
right
So,
now in the
they've
Cup Series,
done
even with all the points
a lot
he
in the
lost
offseason to definitely improve.
through that penalty.
Logano,
he is
he
having
looked
the best
like
start
in
to his Cup
closing
Series
laps,
career.
the last 20 laps.
Right now, he's.
He
lost
didn't have
100
enough
points,
strength,
but right now
compared
he's
to the
22nd in
top
points.
lane.
And
I guess there was enough tire wear
only
to where
Bowman is
more
ahead of him
stability would be
outside of his
up on the
teammates.
top, which
Kyle
not really
Larson's
surprising, to be honest.
27th. Clyde, of
not
course,
because
hasn't
of
run,
the
and I don't know if
plates
he
or
really
anything,
said
but
if he's when
just
he's
because
coming back. And
over
he's
time
32nd.
you need
I don't know
more
about
grip
the
on the bottom
points,
to be able to hold
fair,
the bottom,
but,
and the top tends to
got
win out
4
in those
playoff
types
points.
of battles.
He's got 2 wins, so he's locked in either way. There's
grip
no
was starting to fade
rule
away
you have
with
to be in the
the
top
bottom lane
20 or
cars.
whatever.
Keselowski had control over the top lane,
and he's running well enough. So,
I think
it was between those 2 guys, and then we can
Tyler
definitely
Reddick
get
and,
into
Chris
the
Bell
argy-bargy
trying to
that
make a move on
took
2
place
laps
outside
to go.
of those 2 guys.
To get to the inside of Keselowski, it's probably is a different story. Maybe potentially Keselowski being the first guy to ever do the winner's interview from the outhouse there. So, definitely could have been different there. But, Logano was able to make a move on the last lap in turn 1 and 2 and get to the outside of Keselowski and make the pass for the win. So, credit to him for doing that. But like you said, though, it wasn't really all that interesting of a race. I mean, it was close, like the pack in the pictures, everybody's close together. They're, you have momentum changing, so you get one lane taking the lead eventually, and then the other lane where it's lower, the inside or the outside taking the lead later on. So yeah, definitely it was kind of more of that type of racing, similar to the Daytona and Talladega. And certainly, I mean, yeah, as last lap pass, which we've seen before at Atlanta, but I think, the Carl Edwards over Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt over Bobby Labonte, of course, Harvick over Gordon, which they're calling back to that paint scheme at North Wilkesboro for Kevin Harvick in his first ever win in NASCAR. Finishes like that, I think, were a lot more cooler to see than this type of racing. And so, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's the track per se, but it's just the package, running a super speedway package on a mile and a half oval. I think it's not the right idea. Although they kept it clean for once. It wasn't as, crash fest like last year. So from that end, at least that's one positive to take away. The only real crashes that happened, obviously, Chastain and Kevin Harvick got into it up front. That wasn't, I can't really say that was overly aggressive driving. I think, Chastain was trying to give a bump draft and just, I think he got Harvick loose off the spoiler, kind of, maybe like within an inch or less of touching the rear bumper, and Harvick started to get loose and then spun out and had the big one on the backstretch. And then, of course, Eric Almirola spinning out as well and collecting Kyle Larson up front. They went too long on tires there. So clearly there is a limit with the tires, even if, they're on restrictor plates or tapered spacers, whatever, on a repaved track and everything. So it still kind of matters at least. So, I mean, it was an okay race, but, nothing really exciting to, if you're, a real race fan or anything like that. But at least it was clean for the most part. So, yeah, I mean, it was interesting. And, I did place a bet at the beginning of the race or before the race on Keselowski to finish top 10. So put 10 on that on even odds. So got it back. And then in the middle of the race, I decided that I would bet on Ryan Blaney since he just got back in the lead lap and they had him at the live odds had him at 4,000. So I was like, well, if you put down 10 there, that's 400. So, thought it might happen and started to get a little bit nervous as Ryan Blaney got up towards the front, and everything. But, you got to be in front to be able to win at this track and at Daytona and Talladega. And unless you try to make a move on the last lap, once you get up to second, it's really hard. If you're not the lead car, to be able to take the lead. And of course, Penske cars, they're all going to team up for the most part. Although Austin Cindric seems to think otherwise. It seems like him and Ryan Blaney don't quite gel together. But for Blaney to be able to go and win, he would have had to make a 3-wide move at some point to be able to get around his teammate, and it's going to be hard to be able to do that unless they got separated and he ended up in the top lane or something like that to be able to get around Logano. But yeah, I mean, it could have been, I can't say it could have been better because it's Atlanta the way it is, but at least we get to see a last lap pass and whatever, and at least it seems like the fans there enjoyed it. So I mean, I don't know, it's tough to say, but this is the new Atlanta now, and certainly it's going to be here to stay for a long time.
Yeah, and they look like monkeys fucking footballs is what it is. I mean, great stuff there, man. A lot to dive into on my end. I mean, we brought it up prior to the show. We were talking, and I mean, the way NASCAR, I mean, I've said this, I don't know how many times on this show. I said it on other shows I've been on. NASCAR, they have all these road courses, yet they do not know how to go and officiate road course races. They do not know what a local yellow is. They could have cut, I don't know how many yellows out of there just by calling a local yellow. They have virtual safety cars in Formula One, and they're faster vehicles. They're basically upside down airplanes. They're rocket ships. They have virtual safety cars. It's 2023. Like, I get the BS back in the 90s and the 80s when it was Bumble F or whatever, but even in the 80s and the 90s, they didn't even call the amount of cautions that they do now. They just do it just for the sake of doing it, I think, in a lot of cases. Yeah. Yeah, and that was when Bob, Benny, and Ned they'd have they'd have Benny in one part of the track and Ned in one other part. Like when they're at Snoroma, Ned Jarrett would be over there by the hairpin, the one hairpin, and then Benny would be in the suites at the final turn. And they would go and announce, but they had local yellows. They'd let the race work organically. In this day and age in NASCAR, they just want to make it a circus. And I mean, you had Gunther Steiner in there, and even he was perplexed and by it. But then he also was one of the team principal of the Red Bull Cup team, I think, or one of the big up guys back in the day. But absolute lack of respect, it's true. I mean, some of these people just absolutely, like Keebler Gibbs is a great example, and he was guilty of a couple of them yesterday at least. I mean, Daniel Suarez lost his mind, tried to run over his own teammate, and then went after Alex Bowman. I mean, to be fair, Alex Bowman's kind of a peckerhead. He drives like that a lot, and then he does the whole "woe is me" routine, and then they went after Bubba about it, and now Suarez has gotten pissed too because he's just kind of a douche anyway. But I'll go through a lot of this stuff here. So yeah, Dylan ran over Jimmy Johnson. They didn't even finish a lap. So they were out. Bubba Wallace, it's different things. I think he had a oil line come off, and then yeah. I figured that's exact because then for the Larson zealots who want to complain about it, he did the exact same thing and ran over Ty Dillon at Indianapolis because his brakes failed, and he just literally T-boned Ty Dillon going into turn one. So it's the exact same thing. Bubba did it, but then in true Bubba fashion, he goes like full bore into himself and blaming himself when, to be honest, it was probably his best road course performance of his career. In a cup car for sure. I don't know. I can't really remember anything he did in a road course in an Xfinity or truck anyway, or maybe they weren't running him as much back then anyway. But he was so hard on himself, it was pretty bad there. I mean, Connor Daly's car was a piece of shit, so that was like a start and park. He probably wishes they could have replaced the transmission. He probably would have gotten the top 20 with that piece of garbage. Brad Keselowski had a drive shaft failure, which kind of, like Josh said, it was lap 58, so I think the scheduled distance was 64 laps, right? Or 68 laps? Okay, so that was with 10 to go in the scheduled distance, and that's when it went to hell because, one, they don't know what a local yellow is. They keep on doing this. It's a 3.1 mile racetrack. They do it at Road America, and it's mind-numbing. It's like, how the fuck do you not have local yellows? How do you not have a virtual safety car system or something where you have the goddamn digital screens? You got to go and say, oh, local yellow, slow down in this section so we can go and get the debris and keep the race going. It's freaking 101, racing 101, but it's NASCAR. It's more like WWE. AJ out of Allmendinger, he hit some people and then he got wrecked. Austin Dillon was actually running well on a road course, which was amazing. But then he got cleaned out. Ryan Prix got absolutely murdered. His whole entire car looked like a cluster, and I think Keebler Gibbs ran over him. And then Almirola got cleaned out. He got cleaned out a couple of times. Chris Bell was running up front the whole day, and then he got cleaned out. Kimi Räikkönen, Logano, that's right. Logano was on an alternate strategy, and it didn't work out. He finished 28th. Kimi Räikkönen, he got spun. I don't know by who. I don't remember because you can't keep track of all these damn wrecks because like 3/4 of the field was wrecked. And then Suarez was about to rage and go and get into a lucha libre battle he was going to go and do a 2-on-1 match against frickin' Chastain and Bowman. Weapons, put the mask on, the whole bit. He was about to go and do that. Jordan Taylor, the look on his face says it all. The guy had one of the fastest race cars in the whole place. He proved it during Friday and Saturday. And literally on the initial start, that shit sailed real quick, and he's like, oh, damn, I signed up for the wrong deal here. And it only got worse as it went along. He had a great race car. He knows he had a great race car, and he was doing the best he could to learn on the fly.
Yeah, it was entertaining.
And the restarts were what got him, the same way as with all the other ringers that came in for this race. Eric Jones was in the top 10, fell back. I mean, Gagson started in the top 10 and was up there. Probably, I'm assuming.
No, I mean, it's
Blaney had to make up multiple laps because he got destroyed earlier in the race.
To be or
he
not.
did.
And I mean, it's like what you
he
said.
Got destroyed by Larson.
I mean,
and
what they can
Larson
do?
ends up. What's the irony
is
did
exactly
Larson
that.
Got destroyed by
it's
whatever
interesting
the 23
because never
and the
seen
11.
that. Not the him walking out of the park kind of deal.
Car, and he finished.
We've seen that
down.
before. If you go back to the 70s.
I mean, that's
Bobby
ridiculous.
Isaac.
Jensen Button did get a top 20,
I don't know if you knew about this,
place, so one of the better runs for that organization
one day, like he was,
in general.
I think he was racing like late models or something, or it might have been Cup,
for a Formula One world
got
champion.
a sign from God or something to quit racing that day, so he
wrong with that
parked
car.
the car and went home or whatever. But
I mean, we've been going through
that's
those
kind of
same
what I thought
problems
of, or
since the start of
something like
last
that.
year.
Or other people just parking
Haley
it.
cleaned out Chase Briscoe.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty
out.
big move to do. Park it on the front stretch, right
Briscoe
on
would
the
have done it
finish line, right in front of the whole
Briscoe
world.
was running in the top 10 and then fell back late in those restarts.
I mean, the
McDowell
move on
get
NASCAR's
spun
part,
out there.
what I was trying to say is just
Hamlin, I think, got wrecked on one of them times
like that.
because it's so weird to look
I
at
feel
that
like he's probably seen cars like have issues
car.
like that before, and they never park them.
The interstate battery car is the
for that.
car.
So that's the
what
part
it
I'm really
be,
curious about. And I can't confirm it. I'm just trying to look at it.
Yeah, I'm trying to go through all
but I know
these
that
here.
they, at least on Reddit, they were saying that
Josh
Berry
all day,
kind of
like
had the same
Todd
issue
Gilliland,
with
and they benefited.
Richard
got wrecked at least
off or
once
whatever
yesterday
during the race, but they didn't do anything to him, and it's all because of who he drives for versus who Josh Williams drives for.
Cindric,
which I mean,
Chastain, as usual,
can't say
along
I disagree
with Bowman
with that.
Being
NASCAR picking and choosing once again who
that's
fine
the
or
vast
not fine, or
of the
penalize
field
and not penalize.
So look like idiots,
yeah.
and I mean the notion is Snoroma, they don't go fast enough for it.
It was pretty entertaining. I mean, even freaking Antonio Brown caught wind of it on Twitter.
It was a total
tweeted
disaster.
I think he tweeted out like 2 emojis or something, and it was there for like 15 minutes. I think he deleted it or something. But I was like, well,
the idea you had, Josh, about literally when the pace car goes
all
off
about
to go,
leaving the game
that's
earlier.
better than
whatever
than having him packed up and doing
Bucks
all that.
New York
I'd rather
Jets
have
game
that.
a couple years ago, and then got cut by the team the following Monday. So yeah, of course, it was a pretty entertaining move and probably gained a lot of fans from it. So not surprising to see that as well. And now he potentially could appear on Door Bumper Clear, I think, and maybe even on Actions Detrimental. So should be interesting for to see what else he has to say. If Danny Hamlin's going to cover him on the fines or whatever, if he gets any. So be curious to see what comes out of that. But yeah, I mean, that was the most entertaining aspect out of that race. Obviously, I mean, even if the race were good, I think still would have been the most entertaining thing that would
definitely help
that one. But
on
the
road
other
courses,
I think
sure.
the other part of it is Austin Hill. Obviously, he's
Depending
won
on the
3 out of the
oval,
first 5, which right now is pretty
because
dominating.
I was thinking about it
remember,
with restarts
the last couple
and
of years
how
in
they do 'em,
Xfinity,
and also
we've
with
seen
the
multiple
stages
drivers be dominant
and
throughout
not
the year.
throwing cautions for stages. I think they can't do it on those big
tracks
tracks because they need to bring
Cindric
them
and
back together,
Allmendinger throughout
like
the whole regular
Michigan,
season,
Pocono.
which was
So
pretty
I
entertaining
think
to
that
watch.
wouldn't be such a bad idea
Chase
because then
Briscoe
the strategy would really come back into it.
Cindric the year before in 2020.
I think maybe
then,
doing
last
it
year with,
at North Wilkesboro for
Gregson
the All-Star
and Ty Gibbs
race
going at it throughout the
would
whole
be an
year, trading
idea.
victories. So it's
to kind
early
of
on, and
R&D
he's
it, 'cause that's usually where they
showing
R&D
he's here to
different
dominate
ideas.
and everything. But let's
It would be great
wait
at
and
Richmond
see
this weekend because
a couple
then
more months, see
tire
how many other
tire
drivers
wear,
put their
tire
name into the
dag,
win column,
fuel mileage
everything,
would
and
come back
if it's going
into
to be
it
a
like it
pretty
used to
competitive
be,
year
because the
for
track generally
multiple
has stunk
drivers
for
and everything.
years.
So
Whether it's the car, the
looking
way
forward
it's
to seeing
the
how the
pavement,
season
whatever,
plays out
it's
in
just
that
been a bad
storyline.
combination. I think the new
But
aero
got to give
setup will help.
Parker Kligerman a lot of credit for not crashing.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
Austin
just
Hill, coming
I mean,
to the
I
checkered
hate
flag.
this. Like,
Obviously, he had a run to the
I'll
outside.
be on this hill
and then,
until
for
the end
whatever
of
reason,
time.
Dale Hemrick
But
drifted
somebody
up
needs
into
to.
his left rear
I'm
fender,
available.
and then
I'll work in
Parker was about
the
to hook
freaking booth during
Austin
the race.
Hill in the right rear and somehow just managed to keep it off of him.
I'll work with somebody.
Still
we
make
have the grid
contact,
talk
but he was
people. We can all
able
come
to
up
somehow
with an
lessen the
idea
amount of
to where you
contact
have warning
and,
lights or whatever.
not take
on a
out
local
Austin Hill,
yellow.
which,
You have to slow down in that
takes
area. They do
a lot
it in
of
freaking
thinking,
Supercross.
a lot of talent to be able
Guys
to do that.
wipe themselves
'cause normally
out
when you see
from like
those kind of
50
impacts,
feet, and
both
they go
of
and
them go
basically kill
straight back
themselves,
into the
and they
up
still
into the wall.
they'll
So
put blocks
definitely
around
give
them so they can
Parker
work with
Clearman
the
a lot of
rider to
credit
make
for
sure that
being
they're
able
stable
to,
and they can get them
not
off
crash
the track.
the leader on the last
They
lap.
do
and
it
at least
in live
let
in the race. You
guy
literally
who,
have to roll through
had
the
the best
section.
race, who was the most
fuck
deserving
can't you do it in
winner,
NASCAR unless you're
come
just
out of
trying
that.
to make it a
And
WWE?
of course, Parker Clearman comes across
that's literally
fourth,
what it is.
sideways or backwards at
All
least.
right,
So
the points
good finish still for him and
after,
everything. But
the race here
Austin Hill comes
CoTA,
out and wins the
Ross
race.
Chastain
Retakes
the points lead.
A lot of cautions in this one too. 13. So
from Joey Logano, he has a 19-point edge on Kyle Busch.
Josh Berry getting
Joey
into
Logano was third,
Allgaier,
tied
and
with
then
Kevin
Allgaier,
Harvick.
pretty much said
Christopher
what
Bell
we said
rounds out
earlier
the
with
top
how
five.
they
Blaney
basically ruined
sixth.
Atlanta,
Gumby
and
is
the package
seventh.
and everything.
Truex,
the super
that
speedway
Truex
style
kid from Mayetta,
racing
New
that we see
Jersey
at this
is
track,
eighth.
and
Brad
pretty much said what
Keselowski
I
nine.
think a lot
Tyler
of the,
Reddick with his win moves
traditional
up
fans,
six, or moves up
who
5
understand
positions
what
in
real
points,
racing is
and
about.
is tied with
what they
Denny
said,
Hamlin, his car
or,
owner.
what they've been thinking about
10th and
Atlanta.
11th.
Matt Weaver probably
and
thinks
you're
about
only a point
how they
behind Keselowski.
have Atlanta,
Richard
and what probably
is in
95% of
12th.
the garage thinks about how
Busher,
Atlanta is. So
Suarez, and Corey LaJoie is the bump
quote there and
because
everything, but
William Byron
kind of curious why
won 2 races this year.
tried
So
to make that move on
that's
the last lap to,
I'm trying to 1, 2, 3, 4,
Clearman,
6. So those are the drivers right now that are in the 16.
It's okay race and everything.
Right on the
didn't really
outside is Alex Bowman. He's 13 points behind Corey LaJoie.
And
Michael
kind of flipping
McDowell,
back
14
and forth
points.
between it, so I didn't really see too much of it. But I did
Keebler
I did not see the
21
Josh Williams
points
thing live. I think I saw that on Twitter.
So
but,
the
other
Wallace
stuff,
lost 3 positions
finish I did see
with his DNF. Allmendinger lost 3 spots in points as well. So rough day considering AJ Allmendinger lives for these road courses and didn't get anything out of it. The Stewart-Haas guys outside of Kevin Harvick are a disaster. I mean, even though Briscoe got a top 15 finish, he's still mired in 23rd. He's behind William Byron now, who gained 6 spots in points with his top 5 finish. Gilliland is only a point behind him, and he had to drive the 15 car once. Austin Dillon showing once again how talented he is. Gagson showing how depressed he is having to drive for Legacy Motor Club. I mean, it's not like Eric Jones he's only a few positions ahead of him. The 10 and the 41 are 28th and 29th in points. They're behind Kyle Larson, who had a 100-point penalty. It's pathetic. It's just awful. God awful. I mean, Ty Dillon really shouldn't be driving a cup car anymore. I think we've gotten to the point where he needs to do something else. He's god awful. I mean, it's not just the fact that he drives for Spire and they're not even trying with that car, but dude just looks like a deer in the headlights. So it's like at this point, like call it a day. Go to the trucks, do something. I mean, DiBurrito finally, it wasn't his choice, but he finally went down to where he probably belongs as a truck. Ty Dillon's made enough money. He can go and run a truck. And he has enough sponsorship, but okay, there's plenty there. Wow, that was definitely a cluster of a race. And speaking of clusters of a race, we are going to the Xfinity series, which had cluster tendencies there. The Pit Boss 250, which saw AJ Allmendinger win. He led twice for 28 laps, won one stage, cleaned out Sheldon Creed, who was the other real dominant figure in the race. Sheldon Creed came back to finish 9th. He had a really fast race car, and he's a good road racer. So I think that's a good sign for later in the year because they have so many more road courses coming. Allmendinger, Byron, Keebler, the top 3. Sammy Smith, the best regular. Sammy Smith, Justin Allgaier, Daniel Hemrick, and Sam Mayer end up being the Dash for Cash drivers. That's starting this weekend at Richmond. They'll be eligible for the 100K. Josh Berry and Sheldon Creed just outside there. Riley Herbst, another top 10 finish for him. Buckshot Jones actually was not, he came back from mid-pack and finished 11th. Chandler Smith 12th. Alex Labay subbing for Josh Williams, finished 15th. So there was some things there. I'm trying to, in the picks channel, yeah, and we'll get to the trucks in a minute, but I actually was right on the pick for once. And then, I mean, you kind of was, I think it was literally one of those three. I mean, we took 2 out of the 3 there. Keebler didn't really seem to have the pace on Saturday of the 10 and the 2 car, but in the end, he beat his teammates, and that's all that really matters. They're running for owners' points. They're the other team that's really in there other than the 10. Our wild cards definitely did not have great days, but that's a product of a lot of the driving. Brett, it was a Sage Karam, blew an engine, probably got run over at some point too. Preston Pardis had a suspension failure, made the show, so credit to him making the race. The 4, so at the 66, the 74, the 4, and the 35 failed to make the show.
You picked Corey Heim in the
Parker
trucks
Chase
and Jake Garcia
almost ate
card.
it the day before.
And then I had
so
John Hunter and Roger Caruth.
Whatever that John Leguizamo guy who's driving for what's his name, Mike Harmon. I mean, that's just, that's going to happen. And then Cam Lawrence, unfortunate for him. Austin Hill blew up early, so at least made things a little more interesting points wise, because in the end he's got such a huge lead. And Hocevar doing Hocevar things, blew the transmission out of it 7 laps into the race. Parker Kligerman had issues, even though he was up there early in the race. He's a really good road racer. Unfortunate to lose that opportunity. John Hunter Nemechek was up there for a good part of the race, but he got wrecked. I think Kligerman probably got involved in something. Almirola was driving for SS Greenlight, and the car was ugly as fuck, and it ran just as bad as it looked. I'm pretty sure he got involved in the wreck. Connor Mozak did finish 19th. Okay, so you picked him. Or no, I picked. Well, whatever. If that's the bar, then it was a low bar. 3 Cup guys doing the double duty, show up in the top. They're the top 3. It wasn't as straightforward as that, though, Josh, because Sheldon Creed was up there and had a definite chance if it weren't for AJ Allmendinger running through him like he didn't exist. I think it would have been a pretty intriguing battle between the 10 and the 2 car, because Creed had taken the lead from Allmendinger and led 11 laps, and then Byron led 1, Creed, Kligerman. So Creed was there right in the middle, and then Allmendinger used him up to
Derek
win
Kraus.
the race. And it is what it is there. It's kind of what AJ Allmendinger does, but another road course win.
Did he even race
in the XFinity series for him?
Is he even racing anymore? Yeah, but I didn't see him on this. Yeah. Well, yeah, credit to Christian Eckes pulling off the move on, late in the race to be able to win. Led the last 3 laps. Nick Sanchez, I think he was pretty impressive as well. And I think, aren't they a pseudo car, like a satellite car to the Kyle Busch team? I can't remember if they are or not. Not the McNally, the Nick Sanchez. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So they're a satellite team. So good finish them for them there. My pick, John Hunter Nemechek, of course, led the most laps in this race. And I thought maybe he might win, but just again, got to stay up front to be able to win at this super speedway pack racing type races, and it's pretty tough if once you fall behind enough. Even though he finished 3rd, just didn't have enough momentum behind him to be able to get up back up into the lead late in the going, because he lost the lead at lap 120 with about 17 laps to go officially. So it's hard to make moves and everything to be able to get up back up there. But yeah, definitely a tough deal there. But at least for John Hunter, it's not the series he's competing in, so it doesn't really matter that much. The other drivers in this race, Ben Rhodes, good finish for him. I think he's still doing pretty good up to fourth place in the championship now. I mean, you talked about like earlier with the Kyle Busch cars, Timmy Hill.
He ran over a couple people.
De Benedetto,
I think
Haley
he got
Deegan,
an all
those
guy.
types of drivers that are normally up front.
Definitely, he got into two people.
Don't get up front that much. I mean, that's kind of the benefit, I guess. On the other hand,
he got into people the week before at
like,
Atlanta.
That's the benefit, I guess, of having these types of races. Is at least it does kind of give a chance to some of the smaller teams,
rogue, and I think
teams that aren't as drivers that are not as competitive in other races to be able to try to run up front.
And I don't know if I'm going to have a career, so it's like, all right, I'll just start driving like them. It tells you how bad it is when somebody who knows how to drive properly and has done it for a good part of his career, albeit not to great success,
have a chance to have their day up front. So
NASCAR's top 3 series has resorted to basically going into Keebler Gibbs or some of these other idiot sticks that think that that's okay.
But yeah, I mean, this race
had
a lot of crashes as well.
I agree with Mayer and Barry. Definitely Barry is not a road racer for sure. Mayer probably has experience
not too surprised
through some of the other categories he's
I think
run.
Corey Heim,
I think it's a similar call for Sammy Smith, but then you're putting him in a Gibbs car.
Obviously, last year he won this race.
He has an experienced team.
Ran into the back.
You give him a good piece, he can drive. He's proven
Nick
it.
Sanchez on the restart.
He is giving himself an opportunity as he goes along the season
for him,
being already having a win.
Unable to be able to get the win there. So,
he's kind of free rolling right now and trying to learn and get more playoff points.
I mean, this
stage wins and things so he can put himself in a position to compete
racing again
for the championship.
But
I couldn't find the driver's points PDF on J-Ski does not work, so I'm working off of the owner's points.
I think it's his first win in the Big 3 series.
Right now,
at least he
Austin Hill continues to lead the points.
Been around for a long time.
He had a 40-something point lead, but finishing down tailback.
Win on the top
he's now up 15 points on
pretty good feeling there. But,
what do you call?
Pretty much
Riley
the
Herbst
weekend drafting
John Hunter Nemechek
throughout all 3
third,
series.
Allgaier 4th, and Chandler Smith is 5th. 6th is Sam Mayer. 7th is Sammy Smith. 8th is Sheldon Creed. 9th is Josh Berry, and 10th is Daniel Hemrick. 11th would be Parker Kligerman, and the bump spot right now, I mean, roughly, it's unofficial because I don't know if that's completely accurate and probably is Cole Custer, who can't buy luck if his life depended on it. This whole entire season's been a disaster. It's almost like he belongs there. While he's getting outrun by freaking Riley Herbst every single week, which is pretty bad. He's kind of in the same boat as Ryan Preece in the Cup Series, where he finds a way to get involved in something, whether he's trying to or not. He's had bad luck, but I think it'll turn around for him, and he'll be a factor later in the year. But bad start to the year for sure for Cole Custer. All right, so we went through those two. Let's get into the Truck Series, the XPEL 225, and at CoTA, and the results there see Zane Smith get another victory, repeat as the winner at CoTA. 9th career Truck Series victory for him, and definitely locks himself into the playoffs now with a 2nd win of the year. Zane Smith beats Kyle Busch, but there's more to it than that. Ty Majeski 3rd, continuing his consistency starting out this season. Tyler Ankrum 4th for Hattori, and Ross Chastain, who started on pole, finishes 5th. Corey Heim, Nick Sanchez, Tanner Gray, Kaz Gralla driving for Tricon, and Ben Rhodes round out the top 10. I think that race actually went to did they actually go to their scheduled distance? I think they did. They didn't go to overtime or any of that other malarkey, right? Or am I wrong?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Well,
so there you go.
Were we going to talk about
Thanks on
F1?
that. I mean, Eckes actually won a stage, but he had mechanical or suspension issues, so unfortunate for him. Electrical issues for Parker Kligerman knocked out another contender. Crafton got destroyed. Hocevar had a mechanical with the axle. Dean Thompson
A
wrecks
minute after
4 laps into
F1,
the race.
yeah.
Ed Jones didn't even get through the S's, and he was done. So that's rough for those guys. A rough day for Chase Purdy, who's been kind of all right so far this year, and then doesn't really have anything to show for it. You got some of these other cellar dweller type people. Roger Carruth gets a top 15 finish, or credit to him, starting to make some gains. Caden Honeycutt in the 04 gets a top 15 finish, just ahead of Miss Hummer 2.0 and Lawless Allen, Daniel Dye, Jake Garcia, et cetera, et cetera. But the story is not just the fact that Zane Smith gets another win, gets a second win of the year, defending series champion, but he got good points in the stages. Kyle Busch had the lead. The race was pretty much going his way, and I think he probably would have won the race, but he overruled his crew chief Brian Patty, who was trying to call him into pit road to avoid the inevitable caution, like the way that that fat tub of shit Paul Tracy and Townsend Bell yell about the danger zone. That's where Kyle Busch got into, and he tried to run it out, get fresher tires so that he could run back Zane Smith, and he got bit by that one and cost him the win. And he wasn't happy about it. He was kind of snippy at Jamie Howe. I wish he would do that to Jamie Little, because she sucks. If you want to figure out a reason to go and contemplate your life, go and listen to Jamie Little announce anything. She is horrendous at announcing. I mean, she's not great at pit road either, to be fair. She's okay, but good God almighty, she is a horrible announcer. And then you have MW55, who's just a dumbass. And I think, do they have Phil Parsons back in there now? Or I don't know who they have in there anymore. I think sometimes they have Phil. Did they have Kurt in there on Saturday too? I didn't know. I don't even remember. Yeah. That's all good. I don't really want to go down that whole entire thing there in terms of who was working or what was going on. But yeah, that race there wasn't a whole hell of a lot that went on, to be fair. What happened with Kyle Busch was really what determined the whole entire deal there in that Truck Series race. And that's really what it is. Zane Smith going out there and getting that victory is a big deal for him. He basically burned his truck down afterwards, and fire response was pretty mediocre, but then it's NASCAR. What do you expect? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Harv was in there, so that was the only semblance of ability in there. And then the Xfinity race, it was the former teammates, Logano and Keselowski, so they were pretty solid. So, oh my God, I wanted to throw something through the TV. That dumb, she's horrendous. And then that stupid ponytail. Like, somebody lop it off, please. Just do us a favor. So what were your thoughts on the Truck Series?
Yeah, it's only 2 races in, but at least we didn't see Max Verstappen win once again, breaking his streak of wins and everything going back to the end of last year. But for Perez, obviously he gets the win, dominating fashion. Obviously, teammate in Verstappen had issues throughout qualifying with the drive shaft, so obviously didn't have a good qualifying effort there, and could have been worse if Verstappen would have been able to qualify better. But I think for Perez, I mean, it's a good win, but obviously Verstappen took away the fastest lap there on the last lap of the race, and then even furthermore, they were telling Verstappen to hit 133 on the lap times, and he started pushing 132s, and they told him not to go for the fastest lap, but he did it anyways and kept the points lead over his teammate there. So, I mean, call it whatever you want. I mean, I think it's pretty ruthless, actually, whether that's a positive or negative thing. But that's what Verstappen did, and keeps the points lead by 1 point over his teammate. So so far, pretty competitive after 2 races in the championship, even if it's among 2 cars, 2 team
such
cars.
a bad rule too.
Yeah, I guess that was the more interesting part, is the dynamics between 2 teammates. Seeing, if you want to see the leader go from the back to the front, I don't know, maybe instead of sprint races, they should, the Americans that own Formula One now, maybe they should implement the inverted starts like they do in short track racing here in America, and then maybe you see the fastest guys drive their way up to the front within the first half of the race, first quarter of the race. That might be entertaining to watch. But you have that, and I think the other interesting thing to take away from this is the Alonso finishing third. Obviously, they've had good pace so far to start the year, but I think both of us could probably agree that we didn't think that Alonso would start off the year getting 2 podiums and get his 100th podium. And of course, they almost took it away from him, and they did for a bit, but they gave it back to him. Now he has 100 podiums. But I think it definitely shows that the Aston Martin teams figured something out earlier in the season, and we'll see if they're able to keep it up throughout the rest of the year. But clearly right now they've, both of them have had good pace, Stroll and Alonso. Of course, Stroll had the issue, but he qualified 5th, so he's clearly got some pace so far to start the year. And I think for me at least, would have thought that maybe for Alonso, I don't know about Stroll, but Alonso would still get into the points, maybe that 5th to 8th place range. I didn't think they had top 3 pace start off the year, so clearly they figured something out. And also interesting quote by Kevin Magnussen, kind of comparing the midfield of F1 to IndyCar, which pretty interesting quote there.
Definitely.
We'll see how Formula One people
and I
take
think
that,
if they were
how they want to make that
smart.
comparison.
It was on Twitter and
competitive
stuff.
The
Kurt
field
Busch,
in IndyCar,
anytime
now
he's
it
in the
seems like
booth,
the
he
midfield,
brings the heat.
the bottom half
He brings
of the
the
top 10
knowledge.
seems like it's fairly
he
competitive,
understands
in
all the
Formula One
different
these days.
aspects,
So
and
I think
for
that's
a lot of
pretty
people,
good
coming
comparison.
from
Fair
when I've been
assessment
watching this
to
sport,
make
I saw him
for,
as a freaking
F1,
pencil
in the
neck,
midfield. So
whatever,
can't disagree there with
bug-eyed, whatever, with the
that
pointy
comment, but
pointy ears and everything.
the
Guy at 20
race
years
itself,
old driving the Exide batteries
I didn't
Ford
even watch it,
in the
actually.
Truck
I was
Series.
out doing some other
and
things.
he was part of that huge wreck that
Coming back
almost
home, I
had
think I got back
Jeopardy
home in time to see
going
the
from
Wingers
there and
interviews with
some of the stuff he used to do
Max and
to
with
where
Checo.
he's become
So,
now.
I listened
kind
to
of
it
a
for a bit,
statesman,
though,
somebody
but,
who's a great representation of the
think
sport.
it was so entertaining, like you said
If
earlier,
Fox
that we
cared
almost
about,
skipped
which
over
they
it,
obviously don't,
like you said.
if they actually cared about quality,
there's still some interesting dynamics.
they already
to
signed
take away
Harvick.
From
Okay,
it,
that's
mainly
great.
Being
they should go and sign
dynamic,
Kurt
the
Busch
story
too,
between
and have
Red
those
Bulls up
two
front.
announced,
And,
or
Phil,
get
credit to you.
another crew chief
You
who
got
isn't working
the
anymore
podium
that might have the
basically right.
ability.
You just didn't have the order.
But then that would get rid
So,
of Larry Max, and they're not going to do that. So you put the 2
that's
drivers in
good on
there
your
that
part,
actually
I
have
guess,
a clue
but,
and can play off of each other.
I think
And you
2
have
of the,
Joy for whatever,
3
however
in the
long he
podium, I
cares to
think
do it
that's pretty
anymore,
easy
because
to
it seems
pick,
like he doesn't
and
want
it's
to
just
do
a
it
matter of
anymore.
getting that third spot right. And
Before
then I guess
Adam
the order,
Alexander
but
ends up getting
that's
that,
how it
which
goes
is going to be
sometimes.
horrendous. But yeah, Kurt being emotional, credit. Obviously, it makes a lot of sense. He wants to he wants to actually run a race or 2 and call it on his own. He figured after all these years he's going to be able to run it out his way. Kevin's able, at least for now, hopefully he can get through this whole year and he can run it out and have his final year. And some of these other guys didn't get that chance. Matt Kenseth didn't get that chance. There are some guys who didn't. Tony's was pretty brutal, getting hurt in the sand rail, and then he didn't run the whole season. There's been guys who didn't get to walk off. Dale Jr., he did get 1 more year, but he had to miss a lot of time before he even got to that 1 year and got out of the race car. So we'll see what happens with Kurt coming along here. Points in the Truck Series, Zane Smith leads the points by 2 over Majeski. Of course, Zane Smith does have the 2 wins and a stage win to give him 11 playoff points, so he's a leading driver with that. Ben Rhodes is 18 points back in 3rd. Eckes 20 points back in 4th, and Grant Enfinger rounds out the top 5, 37 points behind. The 3 competitive Thor Sport trucks are 2nd, 3rd, and 6th in points, so take that for what you will. So that makes 5 Fords in the, or what is it? 1, 2, 3. No, 4 Fords in the top 6. So that's pretty good. The days of Toyota dominating may be over in the truck series. Tyler Ankrum, speaking of that, is the highest Toyota in the points right now in 7th. D. Burrito 8th, Corey Heim 9th, and Tanner Gray rounding out the top 10. He's tied with Chase Purdy, who lost 3 spots after his run at CoTA. Nick Sanchez is 9 points out of the playoffs cutoff there. He's the only one that's really close at the moment. You have some names there. Stuart Friesen, who's made the Final Four multiple times. Hocevar, who's made the playoffs both years. Timmy Hill is just kind of someone that he's just sneaking around. If he can get some good finishes, he might be a factor. Jake Garcia missed Daytona, and he's actually somewhat in the mix, to be fair. I mean, he's, 40, like 39 and 3. He's 42 points out, and he missed a race. He's ahead of frickin' Haley Deegan, Daniel Dye, Raja Caruth, Chris Wrong, some of these other people, Brett Holmes. He's had a brutal start to the year. And others like, friggin' Dean Thompson's a fucking disaster. Jesus. If he wasn't Daddy's money, he wouldn't have a job. Christ, he's terrible. So that's the trucks. They'll be back, of course, at Texas Motor Speedway this coming weekend. So we'll preview that here shortly. All right, time for the roundup here, busy roundup, and try to keep it as tight as possible. MotoGP has their opener, and Pecco Bagnaia, the defending world champion, starts out with a double with a sprint race win and the race win itself by just under a second over Maverick Vinales. Marco Bezzecchi third for the VR46 Ducati team. Johan Zarco fourth. Alex Marquez fifth. So 4 Ducatis in the top 5. The factory KTM teammates are Brad Binder and Jack Miller, 6th and 7th. Former world champion Fabio Quartararo in 8th. And Alicia Spargaro and Alex Rins round out the top 10. Rins and his former teammate at Suzuki, Joan Mir, finished 10th and 11th. Nakagami making 3 Hondas there. Those are the highest placed Hondas. Augusto Fernandez, after a crash in the sprint race, came back.
What moves?
One of those. I think it was sprint race because his teammate crashed.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Was out of the.
But I will say that I'm kind of concerned about the lack of moves. I knew they were going to have a problem with
was
Cap,
knocked out for the weekend. Franco Morbidelli was the last
made so many moves,
classified
and they
finisher.
Calvin Ridley
on his
and everything.
Yamaha.
And I wonder if that factored into failing to re-sign.
Race itself
Arden
was marred by
and,
Mark Marquez being Mark Marquez,
Jawan Taylor,
running over somebody because he's a douche.
It is a little concerning that they haven't been able to add any veterans,
and not getting a penalty
they are in a very tight spot with cap space
and run by the Spanish
with
Armada, like
the available cap for this year and next year, and they
took out Miguel Oliveira, the home
and re-signed their own guys that they
Portuguese
drafted the last couple of years to a long-term contract.
He gets absolutely destroyed 2 laps into the race.
You can always manipulate the cap. And just surprised that they haven't gone after or tried to sign at least one player from another team. So that's all I got to say about that. Really,
what is it? Sprint qualifying, or is that sprint? Yeah. So. I mean, and just to go back, the sprint, Bagnaia wins over Jorge Martin. Mark Marquez started on pole, qualified on pole, and he finished 3rd in that race. He qualified on pole, of course, it was for both. Miller, Vinales, Alicia Spargaro, Oliveira, Zarco, Marquez, and Quartararo. Rounded out your top 10. Only 9 riders get points for whatever reason. That seems kind of random, but whatever. They'll be racing in Argentina this coming weekend, so for their second race, and we'll see Mark Marquez is out for this race because he injured his wrist, so it's kind of karma. I don't know about Paul Espargaro, if he's going to be back. There's definitely a lot going on with the injuries and stuff. Oliveira also is going to miss the race at Argentina, so it's pretty bad start to the year there in that sense. Big crash is not great, and then also He went for 2. Okay, so now intends not to replace. So he had the huge crash, several fractures of his jaw and back, as well as severe trauma in the lung area. So will not be able to be back on his bike for Argentina and the Americas GP. So that's going to be tough for that team. So 3 guys that are not going to be in that race this coming weekend. In Moto 2, it was kind of business as usual in Moto 2 with Pedro Acosta getting the victory over Aaron Canet. Tony Arbolino was 3rd. Philippe Salic was 4th. Manuel Gonzalez 5th. Jake Dixon, Sam Lowe's, the 2 Brits, 6th and 7th. Albert Arenas, Somikat Chantra, and Jeremy Alcoba, making it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Spanish riders in the top 10. Winner last year, Celestino Vietti, was 11th. Joe Roberts, who won last year as well, he finished in 14th. The American and Sean Dillon Kelly finished 20th, out of the points. A struggle for him. Hopefully he'll pick it up as the season goes on. The Arizona Nationals, mentioned that earlier, with possibly the last time they'll be racing at Firebird for the NHRA, which is a shame. Justin Ashley wins in Top Fuel. Robert Height in Funny Car, and Camry Caruso gets her first career pro stock victory at Firebird Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park, whatever. Bruno Massel, Fox announcer for NHRA, won in Comp Eliminator. He's a former champion in that class, of course. So credit to him. In Top Fuel, Justin Ashley defeated Sean Langdon with a 370 with a 329.34. So he ran a slower speed, but he had a better elapsed time and better reaction time to get that victory. Ashley beat Tony Schumacher, Mike Salinas, and Steve Torrance on his way to the final. Langdon beat Antron Brown, teammate Doug Coletta, who had qualified number 1, and Leah Pruitt to get to the final there. And so that was Top Fuel. In Funny Car, Robert Height beats Ron Capps, a long-time battle to the sport. So Robert Height gets his first win of the year. He had to beat his father-in-law and his boss. I mean, he's not his father-in-law anymore, but essentially because of the grandkid. Beats John Force first round, Bob Taskin, number 1 qualifier, in the second, Chad Green in the semis to get to the final, while Ron Capps beats Alex Laughlin, Blake Alexander, and Alexis DeJoria. Benefited from all 3 of them basically crapping themselves on the tree. Then in the final, they were on the tree. They basically were even there, but Ron Capps had tire shake, and Robert Height took the Proc Rocket to victory there, 393 with 328.62 miles an hour. And then in Pro Stock, Camry Caruso, won Rookie of the Year last year, wins her first career race at Phoenix over Bo Butner. So this is one for the KB Titan team versus the Elite Motorsports. So 1-1 so far this year. Christian Quadra, first Mexican-born driver to start on pole and pro stock, I think. I think that was a stat. Gets through round 1, not able to show up for round 2, which assisted Camry Caruso, who had beaten Derek Kramer, who had mechanical problems, basically shook off the starting line. And then she had a solo, beats Matt Hartford, runs a slower elapsed time and slower speed, but wins on a hole shot, and then runs a better speed and time than Bo Butner and was ahead by a hundredth there to win 659 with a 2:2:10.31. Bo Butner from the 11 spot beats teammate Erica Enders, Fernando Quadra Jr., and Kyle Koretsky Redlit to get to the finals. I don't know why they're showing Pro Stock Motorcycle when there wasn't any. Okay, so there is that. The schedule now, this coming weekend, they'll be running the Winter Nationals. which is interesting because it's spring now, I think, right? So they call it the Winter Nationals, but then Pomona Winter Nationals this week. Yeah, so we'll see what's going on there. For the Winter Nationals, you'll have the three classes: Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock. Top Alcohol Dragster will be back, so Tony Stewart will be racing Top Alcohol Funny Car, Comp Eliminator, Super Stock, Super Comp, Super Gas, Top Dragster, and Top Sportsman will be competing there at the newly renamed In-N-Out Burger Pomona drag strip for the Lucas Oil Winter Nationals. So we will see how that all goes, and we'll talk about it next week. Supercross at Seattle, mentioned it earlier. Historic night for Eli Tomac to get his 50th career Supercross victory and tie James Bubba Stewart in the all-time list with 50 victories, and which is amazing for how it was or where he was a few years ago to now get to 50 victories. Is at Seattle Lumen Field. He wins over Cooper Webb and Justin Barsha. They round out the podium. Jason Anderson fourth, Chase Sexton fifth, Roxon sixth, Plessinger, Cian Cerullo, Craig, and Christian Craig, Justin Hill. The Cooper Webb so Webb and Sexton were up there in the top five. I'm trying to go, on the track, trying to go through here, around recap. So go with that. There you go. Eli Tomac in terms of point standings. Yeah, so record of tying second most in 450s with 50 wins. Of course, the all-time leader is Jeremy McGrath, and he's 70-something wins. So ties the points also with Cooper Webb with 6 rounds to go. So a lot to go through here with the rest of this series. So plenty of time. All these races are going to be tight. It's been that way the whole season between Tomac and Webb. Chase Sexton starting to give up a little bit of room. He's now 22 points behind Tomac and Webb. Roxon is tied with Jason Anderson for fourth, and they're tied for fourth. Roxon, of course, has won a race this year. Barsha is 4 points behind them in sixth. Plessinger had a chance last week or a couple weeks ago to win, crashed, is seventh. Christian Craig, Cian Cerullo, and Justin Hill round out the top 10. In Supercross, in the West Coast 250 Supercross, Jet Lawrence, fourth victory of the season for him in the 250 West class, and continuing that domination that he's had all year. The Lawrence brothers are probably going to go and win the both or Jet Lawrence, Jet Lawrence is, and then Cam Lawrence are going to go, or no, Cam Lawrence is a Trans Am driver, whatever. Jet Lawrence, the winner over RJ Hampshire, Cameron McAdoo, top 3, Enzo Lopes, Max Volan, Levi Kitchen, Pierce Brown, Carson Mumford, Mitchell Oldenburg, and Cole Thompson round out your top 10. Right now, Jet Lawrence has a 23-point lead on RJ Hampshire and a 26-point lead on Cameron McAdoo. After that, there's a nice battle between Oldenburg, Lopes, and Kitchen. Points-wise, only 3 points separate those guys. And they will be racing this weekend. They're actually taking a week off. Oh, wow. So they're actually taking a week off, and then they will be back for on Easter. What is it, Easter weekend? Yeah, because, that's the Easter weekend. And they will be racing at Glendale at State Farm Stadium, and for 450s and 250 West. It's a Triple Crown event, so that'll be a little different than the usual. Then they'll go back out east to race at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Then coming out to New Jersey, East Rutherford at MetLife Stadium, Nashville at Nissan Stadium, and Mile High Stadium in Denver, and the season finale will be at Rice-Eccles Stadium in Salt Lake City. That one will actually be on regular TV. Will be on USA. The Nashville round will be on NBC, actually, so that'll be something. And Atlanta Motor Speedway will be on NBC, so interesting there. I'll get some Supercross on TV here late in the season. Formula E, Sao Paulo E-Prix was a Jaguar benefit. They were able to dominate there after issues for other drivers. Mitch Evans wins over Nick Cassidy, who's the customer Jaguar with the Envision Racing Team. 2/10 of a second was the margin of victory. 0.284. Sam Bird, Evans' teammate, half a second behind there. In third, gets the fastest lap point. Antonio Felix da Costa, Jean-Eric Verne, Stoffel Van Dorn, who started on pole, and Pascal Wehrlein, Jake Hughes, Rene Rast, and Sebastian Buemi round out the point scorers there for that round. There was issues for some of the Norman Nato didn't even get off the line. That's pretty bad. And then Jake Dennis got wrecked in the race, so lost out on points. Mortara, Fenestraz, and Nico Muller all were DNFs. Jake Dennis got wrecked by Dick Tantrum, so what a shocker. That's probably why he's in Formula E and not anywhere near Formula One. The points for these guys with a month break now, essentially, 24 days to be exact. The point standing sees Pascal Wehrlein get his first points. He didn't score at South Africa, and he's now increased his points lead to 24 over Jake Dennis, who has not scored points in the last 3 rounds of the championship. Nick Cassidy has started to make a move up. He's only a point behind Dennis in third. Cassidy's scored 3 consecutive podium finishes, so pretty solid there. 3 different, the Avalanche team is a Porsche-powered team, so 2 Porsches, then a Jaguar. The DS Penske team, Jean-Eric Verne, has scored points the last 3 rounds as well, and once finished second, and then 5th this last weekend. Antonio Felix da Costa, 2 former champions there. Da Costa, the Porsche driver, 3rd, 1st, and 4th last 3 rounds. So right now, that battle from 2nd to 5th is really close, only 4 points. Sam Bird is 6th, Buemi 7th, Rene Rast 8th, Mitch Evans 9th, and Jake Hughes 10th. So both McLarens are up there, both Jaguars, and all 4 Jaguar-powered cars are in the top 10 in points. And that's a close battle, too, from Sam Bird all the way down to Jake Hughes is only 12 points. Evans, with his win, moves up to 9th, and so that's a good job for him. Bird, with his fastest lap, goes in after 2 consecutive non-start and a DNF, goes and gets P3 there. So they'll have a month off. We'll get back to it when they come back to the series. The App team has still not scored any points. Maserati team is still struggling. They only have 3 points so far this year. There's some issue with the Mahindra. I think there's some problem with the scoring there on their site. So the Porsche, Tag Heuer Porsche, leads by 41 points over Envision. Envision has a 20-point lead on they're the customer team to Jaguar, and they have a 20-point lead on them. DS Penske is 4th, and Avalanche Andretti is 5th. They're only separated by 3 points. Neom McLaren Formula E is 6th. I don't really know where Mahindra is, but they're right behind them in terms of points. The McLaren team is destroying their factory counterpart Nissan in points, so that's something. And the Mahindra team is is 7th, but their customer team, the Apt Cooper team, is struggling. So maybe they'll be able to go and make some changes between now and next month. Let's see. Get back to move that. Yeah. So let's get into Formula 2 and Formula 3 previews. The points going into Melbourne this weekend. Ralph Beauchamp leads by 1 point over Teo Pocher, who didn't score any points at Jeddah. Beauchamp only scored 5 points in the sprint. Iwasa is 2 points behind, Pocher 1 point behind. He had a solid weekend at Jeddah and has scored in every round. Frederick Vesti won the feature race at Jeddah. He's now fourth and 5 points behind. Jehan Daruvula is 9 points out in fifth. Jack Doohan, Dennis Hauger, Richard Vachor, Kushmaini, and Victor Martins round out your top 10, 16 points between first and 10th. So still early days, plenty of races to go. And the team's championship, Campos is leading by 2 over ART. They have a 7-point lead on Dams, 8 on MP Motorsports. So that's the battle right there for Formula 2. In Formula 3, the standings getting into, they haven't raced since Sakir a few weeks ago. So Bortoletto won the feature race, so he leads the points over Goth by 3. Bogdanovic is third, 4 points back. Marti fourth. Gregor Saucy is fifth. Colapinto, Browning, Collette, Aaron, and Kalen Frederick round out the top 10. 20 points separating first to 10th, and who's tied. 9th through 11th are all tied at 6 points there. So Sebastian Montoya in 13th. There's some of the other people, American drivers, of course, that are on the grid in Formula 3 and Formula 2 for that matter. Trident has a huge points lead so far with the great weekend they had at Sakir. They're, 24 points ahead of Prema and 30 points ahead of ART. We'll see how that all goes at Albert Park for the first time that both Formula 2 and Formula 3 will ever be there. One series that definitely has been there a lot is V8 Supercars, and they will be at Albert Park for their usual round supporting the Formula 1 World Championship. Only one race so far this year, or one round, 2 races, of course. Chaz Mostert is the points leader for Ford over Brody Kostecki, who's in a Chevy. Cam Waters, who won one of the races, or he got the win after both Red Bull cars were disqualified, is third. David Reynolds fourth, and Andre Heimgartner is fifth. So 3 Fords, 2 Chevys so far. Then after that, it's a bunch of Chevys. The next Ford is Matt Payne in 12th, and then Hazelwood. The Shell V-Power team is 16th and 17th, so that's pretty bad so far, but we'll see what happens here this coming weekend. They will have 4 races this weekend, so they'll have the qualifying. They'll race on Thursday, whatever convert to invent local time, so it'll be Thursday morning our time for the first race, and then Thursday evening into Friday morning our time for race 4, and then 2 races on Saturday for the Supercars there, which will probably lead into both of them will be on Saturday. So we'll see what goes on there. Probably would expect Shane Van Gisbergen to go out there and win a couple of those rounds after the disqualification they had last race. So that is it. Thankfully, my throat is parched. So let's get into the IndyCars this coming weekend. Texas, they had a great start to the season at St. Petersburg, a lot of energy. They were on NBC, decent ratings, the whole bit, and then they decided to take a month essentially off between races. So it's actually the PPG 375, my fault. So they'll be racing there. They don't have an entry list, but essentially you can, because Marcus Ericsson. So it's basically the point standings will go into that in terms of the field as I open a seltzer. All the regulars that were there at St. Petersburg, of course, will be running again. Marcus Armstrong will swap out his seat for Takuma Sato. And all these other guys, we got through all that. They're all. So Ed Carpenter will also race this coming weekend, along with Sato. the rest of those drivers, Marco Andretti, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Tony Kanaan, Catherine Legg, and Stefan Wilson will all be running at Indy. So with that, Josh, I mean, you can go and chime in here. The Texas race in recent years, after they did their latest reconfiguration and make it an even bigger shithole, has affected the racing because they've only had one groove. I think Sato tried to run the lane up and wiped himself out of the race. That was the COVID year when they started their season there in qualifying. Yeah, that was made it. And then it was, I forget who it was. I think it was like Rinus VK and Palou wrecked 8 laps into the race. So that was pretty bad too. But that was 2-3 years ago. There's been some huge wrecks, of course, over the history of racing at that hellhole. Trying to go through the history with IndyCar. I mean, this is probably not a good idea, but I'm going to do it anyway. Go through. They haven't even changed the sponsor on Racing Reference. Tells you all you need to know. Over the years since the merger, Scott Dixon has won there. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And Elio Castro Neves has won there twice. Trying to look through some of these other things. Will Powers won there twice. And Newgarden 2 times as well. You have Green Rehal, Ed Carpenter, the late Justin Wilson, Dario Franchitti, Ryan Briscoe, all winners one time during the merger years, along with Pato O'Ward, who won last year in 2021 in the second half of the doubleheader. Last year was a single race. Joseph Newgarden made the pass on Scott McLaughlin on the final lap, coming out of 3 and 4 to get the victory after McLaughlin had dominated the race, led 186 laps, coming off of winning his first career race at St. Pete. So tough way to lose that race, but he ended up getting second place. Ericsson and Will Power, basically those 3 were the dominant figures in the race, and then Newgarden there snuck up and got that victory. Newgarden, McLaughlin, Ericsson, Power, Scott Dixon top 5. Jimmy Johnson finished 6th, and I think that ended up being his best finish in IndyCar. Alex Palou was 7th. Pagano Santucci was filling in the 45 for Root Beer Floathead was filling in for Jack Harvey, and Rinus VK finished 10th. Trying to look through here. Some of the people that were in there. Sato was running for Dale Coyne last year. Some of these rookies. I mean, what is it? Kyle Kirkwood was leading the race, and he crashed, which is basically you could just say that for every race, I think, last year. Green Rehal wrecked. There was a 3-car incident. Devlin DeFrancesco, I think, was the one that started it by going on the apron because he's an idiot. Took out Castro Neves and Rahal. Rossi had a battery issue, so that's pretty bad. Sato wrecked on his own. Drive shaft issue for Rosenquist, who actually qualified on pole for this race last year. And then Lundgaard wrecked late in the race to get everybody together for the last 15 laps. Okay, so I guess from there, what are you thinking for this weekend at Texas? Expectations? Does PJ1 actually finally wear out, and are they able to actually race? Or are we going to have the same one groove nonsense that we've had over the recent years at Texas Motor Speedway? And who are you picking wild card, Josh? Yeah, solid picks there for sure. Scotty getting redemption. Kyle Kirkwood, definitely, you're right. That was one of his better showings in what was a pretty brutal rookie year for him in the AJ Foyt toilets. Right now, my picks, I mean, I could do my homer pick and go with Pato because that's essentially the closest thing to a home race as he has. Chevys, I think, have a bit of an edge on that track. Not as much, of course, at Indy, but Dixon finished 3rd at St. Pete, trying to get that 7th championship. And I think he starts his run towards championship number 7 with a victory on Sunday at Texas Motor Speedway. Obviously trying to, as Josh mentioned, trying to prepare for Indy, the only oval they'll have prior to the Indianapolis 500, practice and testing and all that. But so I think Scott Dixon gets the victory there. Wild card selection. That's definitely an interesting choices. For looking back, I mean, it was 27, so you said Kirkwood, so that's a solid one. I mean, that's just wrong. I think we have to qualify. I mean, in this case, I could really be a douche and go with the defending race winner, Joseph Newgarden, because he's outside of the top half in points, but I'm not going to do that. Let's see here. You know what? I don't know why I'm doing it or why, but I'm going to go with Rinus VeeKay. He's a solid shoe when he's on and he has the right setup. He's one of the best drivers, in the series. He's got a ton of potential, but can Ed Carpenter give him the car week to week? Of course, his teammate Connor Daly is there, and then they're running 3 cars this weekend. So I'm going to go Rinus VeeKay, a guy who, especially at Indianapolis, seems to do really well because, of course, his owner wants to win the Indianapolis 500 for many reasons. Wild card. So Rinus VeeKay is my wild card pick for this weekend at Texas. Okay, moving on to Formula One. I don't think it'll be very hard to make selections here. Australian Grand Prix taking place this weekend. What's it called? In Melbourne in recent years. Charles Leclerc won after mechanical issues for fish lips. He led from start to finish from pole. The winner the prior year was that was the first time in 3 years they'd raced there because of COVID. Bottas, Vettel back-to-back, Rosberg, Hamilton, Rosberg, Kimi Räikkönen, Jenson Button, going back to guys who are now driving NASCAR. Button was really solid there, won there 3 times. Vettel won there, 3 times. And Lewis has only won at the Australian Grand Prix twice. Not one of his better racetracks, considering how many races he has won. Same as Nico Rosberg, actually, so there's something there. Go back to the results last year. Sainz spun off on the first lap, or it says laps 1, but it says from laps 3 to 6. Oh, yeah, and then Vettel retired due to a crash. Verstappen had a fuel leak. Otherwise, everybody else finished. Fred Alonso was the last finisher on the track in 17th, behind Nicholas Latifi and Yuki Tsunoda. That's pretty terrible. Albon actually scored points in this race last year. It was Leclerc, Checo Perez, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris was the top 5. Ricciardo, Ocon, Bottas, Gasly, and Albon rounding out your top 10. So I'll go first here. And, we know who I'm going to pick. Yep. It's Fish Lips to win. Figure he's also going to win the pole because he's pissed off that he actually had to work hard for once. He still threw a bitch fit anyway because he's a tool. But he'll win pole and win the race this weekend at Albert Park. 4 DRS zones for this race. So it'll definitely work in the hands of the Red Bull team because of their DRS setup being so far superior over everybody else. Lips wins and gets pole. Wild card choice here is an interesting one, I guess. It's only 1 round so far, so not a lot to work off of. So, 2 rounds, my fault. I'm already forgetting because I don't want to think about Saudi existing. So yeah, right now. So then we'll just go outside of the top 10. I could get crazy and I'd go Logan, but I don't think so. It's a tough circuit. He has never raced there before. Piastri might have raced there in lower formulas. De Vries hasn't raced there, to my knowledge. Hulkenberg, it's been a while for him. Or maybe Phil. Yeah, no, it's been a while for him. I'm going to go as a wild card choice. Of course, not to win, but to go and do something in the race. I'll go with Alex Albon. I was thinking about Logan Sargent, but I'll go with Alex Albon as my wild card. because they have a decent car there at Williams, and they do have pace to go and compete for back end points. And the Australian Grand Prix over the years has been one where being able to last is bigger than having outright speed. So I think that plays in the hands of Williams
for this
team
race,
and
it's going to be interesting to see how plays out among
Josh, in regards to
the regulars in this field
Albert Park
versus
this weekend
the ringers, including Cup guys like with Kyle Busch, Bowman, and Ross Chastain. So honestly, I look for all three of those guys to be up towards the front in this one. Parker Kligerman's also a good pick here because he's really impressive in that road course win at Mid Ohio last year. So I'm gonna go with Alex Bowman. I like him at this race last year, and I think if things go right for him, I think he can win this race. Obviously, the number 7 Spire car. I mean, I have to feel like that they're getting some kind of help from Hendrick here in development. Obviously, yeah. Obviously, HendrickCars.com sponsoring the car. I mean, last year they started up front in this event. Well, not up front, but Alex Bowman did lead the first lap this race last year, and he was in contention to win on the last lap. And then furthermore, he was in contention to win the Cup race on Sunday, before Allmendinger and Chastain got into it. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Bowman, the showman, as the winner here. Wild card, let me get the picks back up, the entry list. Wild card, I'm going to go with Ed Jones, wild card here. Obviously, IndyCar experience at this racetrack. The 1 year that they ran at CoTA in IndyCar. I think he's gonna, that's gonna help him, especially, his first experience driving a stock car. But I think the road racing experience will help him a lot, and I expect him to, trend in the top 15 throughout the race. So yeah, I'll go with those two as my 2 picks this weekend.
All right, so Fernando Alonso actually doesn't get a podium finish. I'll go and edit that. I'll delete that right there. I was about to start the truck part. I think it's, so Josh, podium, Fish Lips, Checo, Charles, Leclerc. So for me, podium, obviously Fish Lips. I'll also go with Checo, and I'll go chalk. I'll go the way it's gone so far this season. I'll plan. So that's our picks. We'll see what happens with that, and we'll definitely go over it next week. The Truck Series runs at the hellhole that is Texas Motor Speedway for what is it? How many times they've ran there? They've been running there for many years. Was it 42, 45? They've ran 48 races. This is going to be the 49th event at Texas Motor Speedway in the history of the Truck Series. So that's pretty crazy. Used to be connected to Cup race. One of them, they used to run 2 races a year there. Now they're running only 1, and that since that era started the last couple of years, John Hunter Nemechek won in 21, and Stuart Friesen won last year. I'll try to go through. Friesen, Eckes, Prix was driving because he was doing a alternating schedule amongst all 3 series. Hocevar and Ty Majeski was your top 10. John Hunter Nemechek had started on pole, finished 6th. Corey Heim 7th. Chandler Smith 8th. Crafton 9th, and D. Burrito 10th. The top 3 guys, Friesen, Eckes, and Prix, led 127 of the races, 147 laps because of the Green-White-Checkers that took place. I'm trying to see here. Ankrum had fallen out of that race early, so Zane Smith had issues, finished 6 laps down last year. So that is, I'll go over there, take that out right there. Todd Bodine actually ran one of those. That was one of the races he ran last year to get to 500 total starts or whatever, I think, and NASCAR's top 3 category, or 750 or some 800, I forget, whatever. It was some big number for Todd Bodine. There won't be any bumping for the truck series. They only got 36 trucks at this race, so works out for the likes of Trey Hutchins, who's showing up. And the 46 will be filled in by somebody, I guess. Chad Chastain will be running this weekend in the 41 for Nice. Jack Wood will be in the 51 for KBM. Go through here. Ryan Vargas will be in the 30 again this weekend. That doesn't matter. They suck. Reum is actually driving again for AM Racing. Matt Mill, Taylor Gray, I don't know. Yeah, Hutchins, I mentioned, Boyd, some of these other randoms. So I'm going to go and say right now, of course, what is it? You have Zane Smith. He's won twice this year. The other winner is Christian Eckes, and the McAnally Hildeman team is looking really good so far this year. Can't really say the same for GMS, but I say they will turn that around this coming weekend. We will see Grant Enfinger get the victory at Texas Motor Speedway in the Speedy Cash 250. I have to bring up the driver points that way. And trying to see how many people that have run every race is 20, 21, 22. All right, so just outside of the cutoff. My wild card pick, I picked Grant Enfinger, and because there's only 22 drivers that have run every race this year, so it's interesting actually. You know what? I didn't do the dick move earlier for the IndyCars with Joseph Newgarden, but because they've run multiple races this year, I feel like it doesn't. They've run 4 races, so I'm going for it. Stuart Friesen is the wild card for me, so it kind of hedges because he's there. I don't think he's going to be there after Saturday, though. Gets a victory if he can go out there and get a win, lock himself into the playoffs after what has been a slow start to the year for him and his team, considering I'm not a big fan of his either, the fact I picked him, but hey, he won there, so can't work against what has happened in the past in that sense. Truck Series at Texas, TMS dump. What is it? So Enfinger to win, Duvall, wild card. How about you, Josh, for the trucks?
Well, Ty Gibbs is in this weekend in the 19, and obviously he needs experience on this track for his Cup. It's going to be a debut for him on the Cup side. So I'm going to go with Ty Gibbs. Obviously, he's shown some pretty good road racing experience going back to his win on Daytona Road Course back in 2021. And he's been pretty good at some of the other road races throughout in the Xfinity series throughout his career there. So I'm gonna go with Ty Gibbs this weekend. And obviously, Joe Gibbs Racing in their their cars have been pretty good, and obviously he won
so
last
we can
year.
Keep going now.
Won at Road America also last year
for
Richmond, qualified second at Watkins Glen.
So he's brought up the Xfinity standings
around how to road race
updated by NASCAR, so they actually have
record,
that. Toyota Care 250,
at this track,
43rd time they've run this tracks. Particular race in the history of the Xfinity series.
Wild
Perkins, Blaine Perkins is in the 02. Smithley in the 4. 07 doesn't have a listed driver as of yet.
I'm gonna go wild card.
Galding back in the 08. Derek Kraus will be filling in.
A lot of good picks here. Will
be driving the 10 car.
I'm going to go with Sage Karam. Why not?
Choice there.
He's also another IndyCar guy, but he's more of an oval InDcar guy than he is a road racer.
Gibbs car along with
road racing experience
the regular
as well.
Sammy Smith and John Hunter. Connor Mozak,
the races
another
on his limited schedule. So
race
go with another IndyCar guy
he might be
as a wild card for Xfinity this
weekend. Let's see. Chris Hacker, whoever the hell he is. I think he's a Truck Series driver. He's in the 38 for RSS.
Noah.
And go through Leland Honeyman, in the 45. 53 doesn't have a listed driver yet. Timmy Hill is choosing to attempt to qualify in the 66 car at Richmond instead of running the truck, where he's had pretty good success so far this year relative to their budget. Former guest on the show, Dawson Cram, trying to get the Mike Harmon car into the field. And LeBay he'll be in the 91 this week, while Josh Williams makes his return. Kyle Weatherman trying to make the show with a brand new team, FRS Racing, and then Kyle Sieg in the 28. So you can go first there, Josh. I kind of know where you're going to, I kind of have a feeling where you're going to go, but I'll see if you actually go for it. Essentially 13th on we have, or after 13th we can pick, because I think there's like 25 drivers that have run every race so far this year. Yep, so let's go and put that one in there. I forget what he looks like. He looks like Paperboy. I forget what he looks like off Frick. Yeah, he does. Yeah. I was trying to figure out who he looked like or whatever, because there's a kid, whatever, at one of the places that I have somebody there. There's a dude, a big burly dude, and he's very soft-spoken. And his bosses and all of them, they had come up with different people. And I was like, I'm trying to pick up who he looks like and what he looks like. And I'm like, he sounds and looks like Cleveland Brown. And once that started, it became a whole big thing about Family Guy, and all of us were going and doing that. So I have to figure out what Parker Retzlaff looks like. I haven't seen that dude in a while, because of course he's driving for Jordan Anderson, so of course you're not going to be seen. Okay, so interesting. I thought you were going to go this way, but hey, that is definitely a pick. They've had a struggle so far this season. Early, of course, getting back used to working with Taylor Moyer, Barry going and getting that victory. I'm going to go with John Hunter Nemechek. It's Richmond is a Toyota track. It's a Toyota sponsored race. He won this race last year. Honestly, that's exactly what I was like, all right, you go John Hunter. I could have went Sammy Smith even, but I probably would have went Josh Berry otherwise, be a homer pick, but definitely a solid one. My wild card choice for this week, for Saturday, will be trying to look at points wise. So no, none of those are. Kaz Grala's had a bad start to the year. Jesus. Well, he's in a Toyota.
Scott Pruitt as well.
I'm just going to go with that. Kaz Grala had a rough start. There are solid cars, those Sam Hunt cars, essentially Gibbs satellite effort. So I'm going to go with him as my wild card for the race at Richmond. All right, so the final thing we do final race to go over before we get into Josh's sim segment will be the Cup Series event. That will be the Toyota Owners 400 at Richmond International Raceway. There's 37 for 40, so no problem. Anthony Alfredo will actually be back in the Cup Series driving the 78 for Blowjob McLeod. Its team, and who's the other? Oh, Chandler Smith. So Chandler Smith will make his Cup Series debut this weekend after what was a disaster of a few days there a couple of days at Daytona. So that'll be cool to see. Trying to see some of these other Ross Chastain. They don't have a sponsor listed for what he's going to have. Brez Tree on Dillon, Gear Wrench on Harvick, Solomon Plumbing. That was that green and silver car for Keselowski. Blue-green vacations for LaJoy. 3 Chi for Kyle Busch. Napa's back on the 9 with Josh Berry. Shingrix again for Denny Hamlin. Moen for Brian Blaney. Briscoe back in the Mahindra car. No sponsor, who cares? It's J.J. Haley. Action Industries for A.J. Allmendinger. Castrol Edge for Buescher. Yep. Auto Owners Insurance for Truex. Ream will be back on the 20 for Bell. There'll be 2 Menards cars because Harrison Burton will be running a Menards Dutch Boy number 21. Logano Yeah, he ran that last week. Lidos will be on Bubba's car. Raptor will be back for Byron. Leaf Filter for Justin Haley. Quincy Compressor for Todd Gilliland. United Rentals will be back on the 41. Gagson and Jones are the same. Tyler Reddick will be running a Sirius XM number 45. Kraft Mac and Cheese on O. Richards' car. That doesn't matter. Nations Guard will be on the 77. And then Daniel Suarez will be running his first start with Quaker State on his car. So there you go.
I like that Gunther's going to be in the booth for this one. It should be an interesting broadcast.
Richmond.
Seeing how
last
his
year
personality is, and
spring race.
If you watch Drive to Survive,
Danny Hamlin,
pretty entertaining
used,
there. With how
there
they
was alternative strategies in that race. There was guys that were pitting.
I'd like also
that was what
you mentioned all the road racers coming in here. I like that
divergent strategies going on.
Long period where
he only led.
NASCAR,
it looks like he only led.
Didn't really have any road ringers
last 5 laps of the race.
Series.
It was William Byron.
Part of it was because they needed to stay in the top 35.
Will Byron,
and
all the Gibbs cars were on the same strategy.
Because they were trying to
Will Byron was
points.
on an alternative
but then there was also
because they didn't have a caution for the last 137 laps of the race.
Ganassi had the 39 car for Pruitt a couple of times.
He was able to pass. Hamlin was able to pass.
Fellows ran the 81 for DEI. Maybe 1 year
essentially,
or two,
but Blaney qualified on pole, led
also drove the
128
one
laps,
car.
Only finished 7.
Boris said, of course,
Byron led 122 laps,
which
after starting second, finished
racing there.
Hamlin, Harvick, Byron, Truex,
the
Larson,
66
5,
1
Bell,
year two
Blaney,
for
Bowman,
Jasper
Kyle Busch in the 18 car,
then
and
ran his own car,
Dylan
and the 77
top 10.
Yep.
Chase Briscoe started 4th, finished 11th. Reddick, Keselowski, Clyde, Buescher, Suarez, Logano, and Harrison Burton rounded out the top half of the field.
Yeah,
or actually,
so
I should have stopped
you
at
got
Logano
that,
because
and
he was
that was like I was always
on the lead
looking
lap
to
Suarez
seeing
was
those
last car on the
guys
lead lap last year.
compete. NASCAR
only
always
2
made it
cars
interesting,
fell out
of course,
of the race.
and
Cody Ware
kind
with the
of brought
wreck,
an extra
and
element to
Greg
the road
Biffle
races
driving
and
that
everything. So
number 44 NY Racing.
yeah, I'm with all the
dumpster fire,
really credible guys. I mean, this is a whole
Kurt Busch had
other level. I
mechanical
mean, those
problems
guys
in that
were
race.
true
Had to go to the
road
garage for a
racers. But now we got
there.
a couple
So,
of Grand Prix
all
racing
right.
champions, in
For
Formula
me,
One coming over
who
here
do I go with
to America to race.
in
Obviously,
regards
Kimi
to
raced last year and brought a lot of fanfare
this race?
to Watkins Glen. But now we've got Jensen
It's,
coming here to race the 15
I mean, they've
car,
only
of
ran
course,
one race
testing
with this
for,
package on an oval. It was
Garage
Phoenix.
56, and so he's got a little
Harvick
bit of
dominated
experience
that
now,
race.
racing
Harvick came
pseudo
through
stock car
when it counted, and then they
around
screwed him over.
Other tracks, Daytona, Sebring,
In terms
other
of
Road Atlanta, other
that
places.
race,
So
I'm trying to go back
that's
to. I
it's
should go
pretty
back
interesting
to that
there too, and of course Jordan Taylor
race itself
as well in the 9
Go
car.
back to the
But
standings from
I'm curious now,
earlier
and
this
they have
season.
legitimate chance to win
Do
not only
that,
because
do that,
they're in good
go
cars,
to
but
Phoenix.
also the Gen
Which
6 or Gen
saw
7 cars.
Byron get the victory,
road
second
racing,
straight victory.
stock
Blaney
car,
second.
and it's going to
Reddick,
give
Larson,
advantage to
Harvick,
their abilities to be able
top
to road
5.
race and handle around
Bill
these,
Briscoe,
these,
Kyle Busch, Bowman, and Josh Berry.
13 12-turn racetrack at or 20-turn
Larson
racetrack
led
at
the most
CoTA.
laps in
So
that race, and then,
it
or
should be
virtually
interesting
Byron
to
and
see.
Larson led the whole entire thing.
But
And then Harvick got past
I'm
both
looking
of
forward
them.
to seeing that
it didn't
and
matter.
seeing how they stack up against some of these regulars in the Cup Series.
I'm going to go Harv. I'll
but,
go Harv this week. He did win
for
the
me,
second
I think,
race
there
this
weekend
at Richmond.
CoTA.
Seems
I'm
like
pick
the Stewart
Kyle
Haas
Busch to win.
team is better
I
on
think,
these short tracks.
Again, the 8 car, they were really
I think
good
Kevin
on
Harvick
road
goes
courses
out there,
last year.
gets the victory.
Tyler Reddick, of course, won
and my
at
wild
Road
card
America and then won
selection.
later at Indianapolis Road Course. So I'm going to go with Kyle Busch winning this weekend at CoTA. I think he's obviously been pretty good on road courses before, but he has
Bowman actually is. We're counting Will Byron in there because he's already won races.
Get his second win.
It's kind of a stretch.
With Richard Childress Racing this weekend.
It's kind of a
they
stretch.
Seem to have turned a corner, at least with him in the car. And I think
you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'll just
wild card. I'm going to go with Kimi. I
That's
think he's going to
that's
be
low-hanging fruit there.
a factor in this race. I think he was running
I'll
really well
go with
when he ran back at
I'll
Watkins
go
Glen. Of
with
course, got caught up in a mess
Bubba.
there and got
He
crashed
needs a
out. But
recovery run
yeah, I think he
after a
does
rough
pretty well in
weekend
this event
at
this
CoTA.
weekend, and
Didn't end up the way he
really
wanted it
curious to see
to.
his second
Be a
race
good place for him
in
to go
a
and get a
stock car.
recovery
Now
and
he's racing
get
at a
some good
racetrack that
momentum
he's had plenty of
back
experience in
on his
Formula One.
side. So
And I think he can do pretty well
to
at this
win,
racetrack. So looking forward to
Bubba
seeing
wild
how he's
card.
able to run.
How about you,
in the
Josh?
91 car? And I think he'll do the best. I think of the ringers in this race.
Yeah. All right. So that's our picks. We'll see if they are any good in the preview. So with all that, that means it's your time to shine, Josh. It is a sim segment. Let us know what's going on in the world of iRacing and gaming.
Yeah, as always, of course, I think with the sim segment this week, I started off with something a little bit interesting. Recently, I bought another monitor, so I have 3 monitors now, and I decided to set up triples, and now I have more than just the single view outside the cockpit. Now I have the left and right sides, so hopefully that'll help me improve a little bit better on the Sims side of things, and being able to run on iRacing and have a little bit better field of view to navigate through traffic and run closer to the wall, closer to other other drivers and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what I was testing out this weekend. Took a little bit to set it up and everything, but liking it so far, although I'm trying to still, I think my eyes are still trying to get used to it because it's a wider view with the left and right sides, and so just trying to get my eyes used to it, I guess, and everything, and not feel disoriented, I guess. So not really feeling that much, but I knew maybe if I did it for an hour, I don't know how I'd feel. I only did it for maybe like half hour at most, or or anything like that, or not an hour, but maybe longer. But so I'm trying that out right now, and everything. So liking it so far, like I said, and hoping to be a little bit more competitive on that side and everything. Because I know a lot of really good sim racers, obviously, and people who are able to do it. They run triples and everything, so it's a pretty good investment there, I think. Otherwise, I mean, I did do the Cup car, the old Gen 4 Cup car at Homestead. Ran that a couple times, I think, and it was definitely an experience for sure. The Cup car, really hard to get back to the gas on corner exit like it should be. You try to get back to the gas, and then car starts to turn loose and everything. So you really got to be careful on the throttle and save the tires throughout the race. And that's exactly what I tried to do. I think I came in like 10th or 12th, I think. So it wasn't like a really great result, but it was really tough and everything. So sometimes that's how it goes. But really enjoyed running in that car this weekend, or this past weekend. Did a little bit of racing on Charlotte Roval in the GT4, the BMW GT4. So trying out that car as well. Seemed to like it a bunch there. So looking forward to trying to do that one a little bit more. Let's see. This week, of course, now the new season of iRacing underway, season 2. This week, of course, you got the NASCAR series all at Circuit of the Americas on iRacing this week. So should be interesting there. Got, let's see, other series, 87 cars at Talladega. So that should be always fun. Always try to get into that one, throughout the weekend, throughout the week. Oh yeah, now I also tried the Formula Ford as well, so I forgot about that one. But they released the Formula Ford recently on iRacing, and tried that one out. Didn't race, but just tested at Laguna Seca. So I like the handling of that car and everything, and was able to set pretty good lap times pretty quickly. Toyota GR86 car, Gazoo Racing at Lime Rock Park this week. So that's another probably try to take a look at. Let's see. Trying to see where's the Cup, the 87, not the 87, but the the regular Cup car from the Gen 4 Cup car. Let's see if I own. Maybe it's a track that I don't own car. Gen 4 Cup car. Where is that at? Can't find it. There's so many series here. I don't know. Can't. Oh well, ARCA is at Michigan, so that might be something to try out. Oh, Gen 4 at Richmond. So that's I don't have Richmond, so that's probably why I didn't see that there. So, but the schedule for the Gen 4 Cup car, see schedule Richmond this week, and then Charlotte Oval next week, then Bristol Motor Speedway, Daytona in a couple weeks, week of April 11th, the week after Easter, April 18 at Auto Club, Dover, Atlanta, Talladega, Nashville Super Speedway, Darlington, Texas, 2009. So that's the schedule for the Cup car on iRacing for the old Cup car. So looking forward to trying out that one a little bit more in the coming weeks, of course. IndyCar, the current IR18, of course, open wheel road or oval track. Let's see. Open wheel C at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. I also don't have that track, so might be a little bit. Although Cars Late Model Tour, the late model car from that they just released racing at North Wilkesboro, so maybe I gotta go get my Dale Jr. North Wilkesboro shirt and put that one on and race at that one this week at some time. Might have to do that. We'll see. Got a lot of series, of course, a lot of races that be able to run this week. So I think that's pretty much it for sim racing. Just trying out different things. Got a little bit addition to the setup here that I think will help me be better and everything. So looking forward to doing that a little bit more this week. Of course, as always, when I stream at Twitch TV /USailor2, go in there and watch all my streams and everything, and I'll make sure to try to let you all know when I try to stream and can go in there and watch my racing and everything. Don't think I'll have the triple screen set up on the stream. That might be a little bit tough to get on there because I definitely use up a lot of resources trying to stream all three screens. I don't think you need to see all three screens to watch my stuff, but it's there, of course. So I'll try to stream whenever I can this week. Probably towards the end of the week, a little bit busy with work this week and everything. So you'll see there. But that's where I'll have all my stuff. And of course, my personal Twitter, JP Huffine. Go on there, follow my stuff, all my thoughts and everything on the races and everything else I like to talk about. Go in there and follow me, of course. And then our YouTube page at Gripster Podcast. Go in there and see our video format of everything that we do on here on this show. Go in there and watch or listen to the whole deal there. So go in there, subscribe, like, comment, subscribe onto that channel and see our stuff there. So yeah, I mean, that's it for me this week. Of course, we did talk about basketball, of course, a little bit. Got my bracket, of course, relying on 4 teams now to help me get anything I can get. I have teams that I think help me that are still alive: Texas, Alabama, UCLA, and Tennessee. I need to win this next round to at least have something left, or else my bracket is completely dead. So didn't really do good this year in the bracket, but maybe still have a chance as long as all those teams win, and then UCLA goes all the way to, that's who I picked, so to win the championship. So there's that. So yeah, that's all this week for me, of course. So let you, Phil, take it for the close.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Wouldn't do it with anyone else unless you're on vacation, you're working, and then we have to find a sub. But otherwise, this is the deal right here. In year 4, 5,000 downloads. So thanks to all of you who download the show and listen to us and support our deal here. I'm at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. You can find us at Gripster Pod on Twitter. Josh mentioned the Gripster Podcast YouTube page where the video feed is. I'm the executive producer in terms of the audio. So try to be better than the last couple of weeks. Try to get it out the same week. It would be a novel concept. That's we're anywhere that you can get podcasts and get the Gripster podcast. And then also for people for some of the people, for Aaron Harper, who's has his pod, for the Grid Talk crew, they'll be doing the Australian Grand Prix qualifying and the race review, but it'll be pretty early in the morning East Coast time. If you're a West Coast person, then probably a little better for you to watch the race. Listen to them. They've supported us and the Monkey Seat podcast as well. So shout out to all them fine people. With that, this is the end of episode 162. We will be back next week for episode 163 of the Gripster podcast to go over all the events that took place. NASCAR, Richmond in Texas, IndyCar Texas, Formula 1, 2 and 3, along with Supercars at Albert Park. And then we'll get into MotoGP and NHRA next week in the Roundup. So get in all that and come back for that. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Thanks for listening and supporting us here on the Gripster podcast. Take care. God bless and goodbye.